Good evening, everyone. What an honor it is to be here with you again tonight. I think we're on our fifth show. Is that crazy? Has it already been that long? Tonight we are not in the studio. I'm on location in the swamp. I had the pleasure of visiting the White House with one of my J6 brothers and some friends, and so as usual, the left melted down about it and said they've got those criminal J6ers in the White House, and it is what it is. But you know, I've got a treat tonight. We've got a man named Dominic Box coming on with us, and he was in the DC Gulag as well, just like me. But he came a little bit after. He got to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor in the DC jail, where we were hammering away at the relentless determination of those guards and the administration there at the DC jail. And so he's going to talk a little bit about some of the benefits that they got there. I guess not that it was that much greater there, but yeah. So I got to see the White House today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Dominic in, man. So
Yeah, hey,
let's go.
hey, good
Let's,
evening. Good evening, Shane, man. Thanks for having me. Shout out to the Chestnut Checkers podcast and family. It's cool to be here, man. Yeah, you said a little bit, man. We had quite an experience today, man. From the big house to the White House, man, in just a
that's
couple
right.
months. It's incredible.
Just to give you credit, I want to say I did say that on my recording, and I want to give you credit for that. I did. I snatched that out of there when he said, "I said that is really good. I like that, so I'm going to
Yeah.
use that." But
Hey.
yeah, I've seen you on social media, and it doesn't seem like this is your first rodeo kind of doing this stuff, because I'm not. I used to do residential roofing sales. I sold gym memberships before, but I was mainly, if I had to say what I was probably like an oil field guy. I did some
Yeah.
prison ministry and stuff like that, but I'm not by any means a political pundit. And I don't feel like I picked this fight. I feel like this fight chose me. So I'm like on the
Right.
fly trying to assemble this airplane as we're flying to doing podcasting and producing social media content. But I see you like with you hanging out with you walking around, and it's like you are a live wire content creator on the go. And so I just wanted to, give you the floor for a minute, but I would like to hear, like, have you always done that, or where did that come from? Is that just something natural to you, or?
Yeah, so people definitely associate, me and my brand, whatever that is, with like the post J6 thing. But the reality is, I've worked in sales and marketing for decades now. Not decades, I'm not that old, but since if you feel a little bit older after getting out of prison. But the reality is ever since I got to college, I've been involved in grassroots political activism. I'm always kind of on the outside, and worked in sales and marketing in some capacity. And I've found that the best way that you can reach people is by using video and at times, saying some funny stuff, doing some, sometimes outlandish stuff. And so it just kind of comes second nature to me. Like I really feel like, unfortunately, like that cell phone is like an extension of my arm, and you never know what you're going to get on video. We had January 6th, we had the crazy gender fluid creature that confronted me and one of our friends today while we were enjoying our brunch, and I had some fun, like, walking through the White House today, kind of going like this. But the truth is, documenting and showing what's really going on, showing the truth is our best weapon in this information war that we're engaged in right now. And it's funny, but it's something I've had a lot of experience with. And I think, again, to you, to any of my J6 brothers and sisters out there, the best thing that we can do is try to turn this mess that the federal government made of our lives into a message. And whether that's through memes showing, the wonderful French dip that you're eating, or just like standard pictures and stories throughout your day, for whatever reason, there's eyes on us right now. And it's our job to, I feel a calling at least to try to show the world that we are not those radical extremists or those domestic terrorists that they made us out to be. We're regular people, that by the grace of God have an opportunity now to show the world who we really are, because we are 1,583 or whatever the number is, individual people, and we've each got a really interesting story that is still being written every day. And it was fun to
Yeah,
do that with you today.
yeah, that's why I think they made a mistake. They really demonized us and made this image of who they said we were, and it's like the devil wanted to destroy us, and us fighting back is going to be God working through us for His glory. And I just feel like they really made a mistake whenever they tried to crush us because, uh, as bad as it was, it made people sympathetic to us, and it opened their eyes. And now, for whatever reason, J6 has given us a platform. It's given us an opportunity to share our stories and our lives and our experiences. And so it's a beautiful, interesting story. I wish we didn't have to go through that to get here, but I wouldn't be doing the
Yeah.
things I'm doing right now had those things not happened. So I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
So no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's always funny when, you get to know somebody, and I've not had, and neither of you, like a really long time, but it's like you get to know somebody, or you go out on a date, and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm a January Sixer, and they're like, but like deep down, they're like, wow, I kind of like, I like this guy, or he made me laugh, or like this guy that just made me a delicious panini is a radical extremist. Well, maybe I need to re-examine like what I've been told, not just about that day, but about so many other things that the mainstream media and the government tells people, because whether it's COVID, domestic extremism, any of these social cultural issues that we've got going on. And like you said, man, we've got a platform right now. We're not always going to have eyes on us, but right now, it really is great to show people that we're not the things that the media says about us. We're not the mistakes that we may have made in the past, or the decisions we've made. We're 1,600 regular men, women, and American citizens that are just living our lives. And it's been a very interesting ride, but it's fun to be on it with good people like you, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things like we always see, they're always projecting whatever they're doing. That's what's whatever they're claiming you're doing, that's what they're doing. And for them to say that we're the radical extremists, yeah, we may have got caught up in the moment or whatever on January 6th, but for them to weaponize the DOJ against soccer moms or just whatever it is, they do everything to the extreme. Open up the border wide open, whatever it is. The way they hunted us down and weaponized the DOJ against us, like we we had a bad day at worst. But they intentionally weaponize these bureaucracies and these systems against the American people, and so unfortunately, that's not good. So you said in your past you were doing sales, but were you always politically active, or were you doing like some?
So the interesting thing is I grew up in a very traditional conservative Catholic family, and on both my grandmother and my grandfather were very involved in donating to different campaigns, always teaching me the importance of getting involved at the local level. And whether or not you agree with this, they always told me that you really don't have any right to complain if you're not going to vote and participate in the process of bringing about that change that you want to see. And they're both in heaven right now, but I don't think they ever expected I'd get caught up in something like January 6th. But that's just, another example of, I know why I was there. I believe it was a moral and righteous thing to do. I know that, you were there for the same reasons. We know the election was stolen, and we had an opportunity to stand up for America and look tyranny in the eye, and say we're not going to take this anymore. And we've all got our own stories from that day. But I've been involved in politics, personally myself, not just watching my grandparents do what they were doing. And I've actually got a lot of liberals in my family, and thank God they've kind of extricated themselves from my life after this January 6th thing. But it started out, I'm a proud graduate of the University of Arkansas. Go Razorbacks, Woo Pig Sooie. But
Yeah.
when I got there, and I know, I got to give you a horns down. I know you're from Texas, but maybe you're
Wow.
a Cougs. Yeah, I had to throw that in there. But when I got on campus, that was during the Obama Hope and Change era. I graduated high school in 2008. The election was already wrapped up at that time, but I saw some chalking, and it was actually a congressman from Texas, you may know by the name of Ron Paul. And I
Mm.
really started looking into what he was advocating for. I got my degree in international relations. He was advocating for a non-interventionist foreign policy, which basically means we don't need to be in 173 different countries around the world, expending lives, capital, and really just destroying our image in support of what really it boils down to, the military industrial complex. But in doing that, I was able to start or found a chapter of the Young Americans for Liberty Foundation, Youth for Ron Paul. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth in the grassroots activism thing, because Ron Paul was even though in my mind he had some of the greatest political philosophies and ideas that I've seen. And I really think he kind of paved the way for the Trump phenomenon that we're all still witnessing right now. But got involved. The Tea Party was a really big thing back then. But to be honest, I was just a college kid, a fraternity guy that was wanting to have fun, pick up chicks, and if one way to do that was like going to political rallies, I did that, and in doing that, here we are. God, more than a decade later, which is like crazy to think about, like 15 years later, still doing it, but at a massive level. So, yeah, I never intended to be like a political, I hate the term social media influencer, but like
Right.
political commentary, it's just, there's so many different issues. I know you're a father, I'm not yet.
Mm.
But we just look at what's happened to our society by, an apathetic populace, people that just sit on the sidelines and are like, well, I guess the guys from the government are going to fix it. And we've seen what happens when we try to let the government fix things. They lock you in your homes, they shut down your small businesses, they force vaccinations on you, and then they put men in women's sports and have kids mutilating themselves. And you're the bigot if you're like, hey, that's not okay. And you know, I think that's a crazy thing. And whatever we got to do, people think like, oh, you're just out there like harassing liberals, and it's like, no, I just want to like expose like the absurdity of what I see around me. And God willing, we're able to bring things back to the center, because I don't think we need to have like a hard right or a hard left. There's a pendulum in politics. And, if we can, bring things back to the center and kind of come together as Americans, I think that's the beautiful thing. And if it takes, exposing liberals and men in dresses, or, bearded ladies, whatever it is, I'm happy to do that.
Do you feel like there's hope for that? Because like just walking with you today, we're walking and you had the dark MAGA, the black MAGA hat with the gray letters on it, and it was just like you can just see like probably a couple out of every 50 people would just look with like disgust, or like, look at this, like, what, look at this Nazi. Or they didn't say that, but you see that. Do you I feel like the right is much more welcoming. Like if people from the left like Tulsi Gabbard or whoever want to come, they say like, you know what, I've seen this Marxist progressivism that's really destroying the fabric of the Democratic Party as well as impacting the nation. But do you feel like there's those people? And I don't think it's a lot of them, but do you feel like there is hope for that TDS sector of the left, that Trump derangement syndrome? Like, do you feel like we're ever going to get those people back? Or
Well, I think there's a certain like subsection of society that is just like lost to the woke agenda, and there's no coming back. And it may take RFK like making lobotomies great again to bring back some of those people. But but the truth is, man, I think that we're so new into this second Trump administration. But we're seeing at the youth level, the Zoomers, or whatever the new generation is called, they're more conservative than ever. And what I hope we can do, yes, I think there is hope for those people, but ultimately we have to get people to stop just buying into the programming. And like so many people, like you said, like it wasn't just a couple, man. Like I should have had like a clicker, but like they just like, ugh, like they have this natural aversion to seeing a hat, which literally is just, we want to make America great again. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't make me a Nazi, but like somehow we have to like, because my thing is this, like I will talk to anybody, but the second you get in my face and start calling me a Nazi and screaming at me like while I'm enjoying a bacon, egg, and cheese, like you need some help. But what we can do is I think give, and it's easier said than done, right? Like we need to give President Trump the benefit of the doubt that like maybe okay, like he is your president. Like, and that's the craziest thing to me, Shane, is like we are walking around in our nation's capital where President Trump lives and works when he's not playing golf and making deals in Abu Dhabi and all of that. Like this is the nation's capital. This is the president's home base. And like if you're gonna have this like I don't like the excuse like, well, this is a liberal area. Like, whatever. Like, this is where the president lives and works. And like, you have to be able to have a conversation, have a difficult conversation. And that's why sometimes it's not worked out, but like I'm happy to go in these different like X spaces and go on different platforms and like try, except for TikTok is like a wasteland, and I'm using it for twerk videos now. But like you've got to like have those conversations, because I don't want to, like, yeah, it's fun to like own the libs and like make fun of people, but like that doesn't really, and I'm cognizant of that. I'm aware like that doesn't necessarily make things better. Like yeah, it rallies the base and all that, but like at the end of the day, what are we really trying to do? And I genuinely believe it's to make America great again. So
Mm.
I think there, there's a certain subset that's lost forever. But I think if we give Trump a little bit more time and we all kind of decide like what is a great America? What does that look like? What are the problems and how do we fix them? That's the thing. I'm a solutions based guy. Like it's easy to like be like, oh, this sucks or I don't like this. But if there is a pathway to improvement, I'm willing to put in the work, the blood, the sweat, and the tears, and the time like we've both put in literally for our country. And I think more people will eventually kind of fall in line because you just got to kind of grit your teeth. And it's like when we were sitting in a jail cell, dude. Like I wanted to be free, but I didn't get. If you think about that, and it's like I shouldn't be in here. I hate this. Like it was horrible. But if you just kind of like
Yeah.
gritted your teeth, did your burpees, and were like, it is what it is. I got to make the best of the situation, and that's how I got through it, man. That and a lot of ramen noodles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lots of sodium and carbs. Good Lord.
Oh yeah.
So you were a few things. What was did you watch election night, and then what was it like when you saw people get pardoned, and then you were one of the last guys? You didn't actually get pardoned when everybody else did. What was that like? And so yeah, just kind of share some of that. Those I know those are like in my experience, like those things when I watched the election night, 2:30 in the morning, like sticking my head. It was just a good. I would like to hear your version of those events.
Yeah, so at that time I was still in the DC jail. When I got there, there was like 40 of us, and it was like a Trump party every day. Like you had the Q
Yeah.
guys, you had the hard right guys, you had the whatever guys, but we were all like we were having a good time. There was the hopium dens, all of that. At the end, man, there was 8 of us left, and they had actually integrated the pod on election day. They brought in like, actual like DC natives, urban youth with like multiple carjackings, murder charges, kids looking at life. And stuff got a little tense. Like that was a hard thing because we all like those kids, those men, they didn't care about the election, and they darn sure didn't want to see a bunch of, I hate to, get racial, like they didn't want to see a bunch of white men and women like walk out of prison. So they were not supportive. The guards were ultimately like, some of them they liked us because like most people when they get to meet us, they're like, oh, these are just regular guys. Like they're not really criminals. But they treated it like a regular night, man. We had to lock in at our standard time. And I had a radio that eventually they made contraband, which I don't even know what they thought we were doing with it, making I don't want to say anything to get the stream taken down, but basically, one of the coolest moments I had was being able to call out the election, and they turned off the TVs. One thing they never did was turn off the TVs. They'd have like Fox 5 and my girl Annie Mae like calling the weather at like 4 in the morning
Yeah.
or whatever, but
Yeah.
and or like reruns of Sherry and Jennifer Hudson, whatever. But uh, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got a pretty loud voice and I had a radio, so it was one of the great honors of my life to be able to yell out and tell my brothers that we were going home. And that was in November. So we still had a little bit of time, and that was honestly that was a really hard, not hard, but it was a difficult thing to navigate because we were always cognizant of the fact that like we believed that President Trump was going to win. We believed that he was going to keep his word and we were going to get out. But immediately we were then thrust into a situation where you've got these guys who in some cases have like nothing on their books. They have nobody coming to see them. They have no hope of getting out for the next 15, 20, 30. There was one guy who got 48 years that was in there with us. And it was like, okay, like we need to like band together again and be like, yo, we've got each other's back. Like we're not going to take any shit. Like if something happens, like it is what it is. And we really, it was nice because it kind of brought us back together. Everybody kind of, I don't want to say fractured, but it was like you're around all different people started hanging out and doing different things. But those next couple of months, the even the staff was kind of like, except for the ones that really like kind of like rode with us and were cool, they were just like, you're not getting out, they're not going to really pardon you guys. And so that was kind of a difficult thing. We had to go through Christmas and New Year's away from our families.
Mm.
And then, as inauguration day came, That's when it started to be real. Like we were all like, okay, like what is our plan? What are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? And we had great people like Suzanne Monk on the outside who had written that incredible book, How to Pardon the J6ers. And like none of us really we are like, oh, he just like signs a pardon and you're good to go. But it was like nobody really knew like what that meant. Like, does that mean you get to walk out that day or whatever? But we were told from a lot of people that, hey, this is really going to happen. We've got a plan in place. We're going to get you wherever you need to go. And thankfully, that came to be true. But the reality is, for those of us that were still in the DC jail, we had not been sentenced yet. I went to trial on June 17th. And they, the prosecution, they didn't want to drop my 1512 charge. They were dragging their feet. And I think they started to like read the tea leaves a little bit. So they just kept pushing stuff out, pushing stuff out. I was found guilty on, I don't remember the date, sometime around Halloween. And then they set my sentencing date for February 21st. And I want to give a couple shout outs to the guys that were, Greg Purdy and Bob Turner and some of these other guys that were able to extend, like they knew, like they're like, I don't need to go to prison. You don't need to ship me all over the country. Like, let me just ride this thing out and walk out of the jail. But what they did, man, the judges refused, like they didn't let us out that night. And so it took like 2 and 3 days, and there was a massive presence. Shout out to everybody that came from all over the country to welcome us out that night. But despite being, literally like a mile or two away from where the president signed that pardon ordering our release, it didn't happen that way. And we don't talk about this. I've not seen it talked about a lot in podcasts, but we all banded together and said like, yo, like I filed as soon as we saw Trump sign that pardon, I filed a grievance that I learned from, Chris Quaglin and all you guys who were like teaching me how to get stuff done. It was just like, I want this on the record. And I'm being
That's
illegally
right.
detained. And so we refused to lock in, and they did not like that because again we had regular DC natives in the pod with us, and they like brought in the ERT squad. They were all like tack geared up, and they're like, "You must go in," and myself and Greg Purdy
You
kind
must
of were
comply.
screaming, "Comply or die!" And I was just like, no. And they're like, what do we do? And they've called in everybody, and I was just like, listen, you can go ahead and like brutalize us, spray us, like please do that. And
Yeah,
my buddy
absolutely.
Vitaly Gosjankowski, he's a deaf guy, had a tablet that allowed him to video chat. His buddy was screen recording it, and we weren't provocative, but we were just like, listen,
Right.
we're not locking in, we're not going to do that. And they made us pay. They locked our cell doors, gave us no bathrooms or food or anything for like 2 days. So we just peed in the shower and like kumbaya for a couple days, and it was a
That's
good
awesome.
time. Yeah, it
They're like,
was,
we're not. Well, that's cool. At least they did. I mean, I guess it's not really cool, but it is interesting the tack they
it,
chose to take.
it was, man, it was the one time that like we really were like, you know what, nobody wants to get like brutalized by the cops or whatever, but it was like, man, are you really like, like you don't like us, but deep down like we're not supposed
Yeah.
to be here. And eventually it took a couple days, but our prosecutors and the judges, they did finally sign our dismissals, and everybody but myself and Daniel Ball were able to walk out and go home that day. So it was a beautiful thing.
It was cool to see, I mean, I didn't sleep like the first 36 hours that I was out. And so it was really cool to see the brothers and sisters banding together and going outside the DC jail. I wanted to go, but I just had too much stuff going on with my life and emotionally, mentally, like under just a very challenging, it's still been a challenging point in my time, which kind of brings me to my next point. So you got out a few days later though, right? Was it how many days was it totally?
Yeah, I think it was so I actually got released on February 14th. And
Okay.
a lot of
So it was
people, it
like
was
3 weeks or
Valentine.
so.
Yeah, so it was like 26 days or something, whatever it
Okay.
was. And the reality of the situation was, I was facing a DUI charge out of
Mm,
Florida, and it's not because I was like going out and partying, like as like I wasn't arrested right away. Like the FBI came to see me, and I mean, they were on me like a bonnet. Everything.
mm,
Where you living, where you doing, and they only I was initially charged with 4 misdemeanors, and then they threatened me with a superseding indictment, and the only plea offer they ever gave me was to a 1512 obstruction charge, that 20-year felony, while I was only charged with misdemeanors. And by that point, I had lost my home, I'd lost my job, I'd lost my car, like everything was just like crumbling all around me. And I'll readily admit, I made some bad decisions. I didn't. The stress got to me, and thankfully, nobody was injured. I didn't hurt myself or anything else. I just, I dealt with the stress in a way that now, thankfully, it's always never drive drunk. That's a horrible thing to do. But thankfully, I was able to, nothing bad happened. I got cited for it. And then interestingly enough, I had a paid attorney on the situation there. I did not miss court. There was no warrant. There was no extradition order. It was a misdemeanor out of
Mm,
Florida. And I genuinely believe, because of my activism inside and, going on podcasts and having different conversations, the U.S. Marshals at the last minute put a hold on me, and in
mm,
doing so, they moved me to 8 different federal facilities in 26 days, as far west as like Nowheresville, Kentucky, to one of the worst facilities in America, Grayson County, everywhere in between. But in doing that, I got to experience, some of that true diesel therapy and see so much more of like what this BOP system and what the federal government can do to the undesirables. And it was difficult watching everybody go home. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a man. Like, I take accountability and responsibility for my actions. I knew that at some point they were going to have to release me. And they did on Valentine's Day. They moved me all over the place. But in doing that, I recognized, hey, there are some deep-seated trauma and just coping mechanism skills that they don't serve me. They don't, they're not helpful in any way. And so one of the big things that I've been working on, since getting out, is really addressing those things and saying, like, yeah, freedom's great. I can run off and do whatever I want. Or I can take this opportunity, this blessed and incredible opportunity, to walk around and be free and fill my time with better things. So right now, man, like, I'm active in recovery. I'm working out every day. I'm doing hot yoga, sound bath, like holistic health treatments, and
mm,
really taking a whole body, mind, spirit, and soul approach to like healing the damage that was done to me and everybody over the last 4 years. Because it's not just the amount of time that you do, which sucks, and it's you lose your hair, you get you kind of waste away a little bit. No matter how many burpees you do, eating that like crap food that they give us, it wears on you. And then on top of that, like the stress of just being called a terrorist and an
mm,
extremist, when you know in your heart of hearts that that's not true. It takes some work to rebuild from that, and I'm blessed to be able to acknowledge and have the opportunity to work on those things. And I would really say, man, I know so many of my brothers are struggling. I was briefly at CPAC, and I got to see some of them. And it's what was done to you was wrong. What was done to all
mm,
of us was not right. I'm readily admit, I broke the law. I did. I trespassed. The cat. We weren't, supposed to do what we did according to their laws, but we did it because it was the right thing to do, and it was in a
right.
response to what we witnessed on that day and before. But to anybody out there that's struggling, man, you can reach out to me directly. I'll talk to you about
Yeah.
what I've done that's worked for me. But I'm in the grand scheme of things, I'm nobody. I'm somebody that's
Right.
working on himself. But there, this incredible network of people that we have out here, if it weren't for them, I'd still be in that motel room, just like with a bottle, crying myself to sleep. And oh, the world's out to get me. But that's not what God wants for me. It's not what I want for myself.
Mm,
And by asking for help and just being honest and open about the struggles that I was having, I'm now living a beautiful life where I'm able to talk about it openly and walk into the White House, man, and really affect some change and speak for those people who are still behind bars that I know need help. And my brothers that are struggling, I'm not going to name anybody, but a lot of people are struggling. And it's okay to be honest about that, man. If the worst thing that you can say about me is something I did in the past that has no reflection of the person that I am today, then I'm cool with that, man, because I'm a better person today than I was when I walked into jail on August 16th, 2023. And I got no shame in my game, baby.
Well, even even if you go out tomorrow and you mess up, Jesus died for that as well. So it's not like anybody that's carrying your past against you. Jesus died for all of that too.
Yeah.
People don't really understand. I will echo what you said. If somebody is out there, and I know they are, because I get calls from guys, especially my like close friends from the DC Gulag that are having a very hard time or struggling, emotionally, mentally, whatever it is, financially, whatever it is. Please, by all means, reach out to Dom or reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Love to just have a conversation, or if you're, whatever you need to come stay with me in the extra bedroom for a little while till you get your head back on straight. That's fine too. So you got out. You
Yeah.
were a little late to the game, but what's the future look like for Dominic Box? Like, what's the plan of action? Do you have one? Are you out here freestyling, or what's going on?
Yeah, I've kind of, a little bit of all of the above, man. I've been all over the place, man. I thought I was going to be down in Savannah, Georgia. I thought I had a little bit of a safety and security net set up there, and unfortunately, like with life, things change. The only constant in life, as I've learned, is change. And I had an old baseball coach, Coach Turner, who said, "You got to be," he said, "Mr. Box, you must be mobile, agile, and flexible to play the game of baseball." And the
I
truth
like
is, that's
that.
just
That's
with
good.
life, man. Yeah, it's good. But
That's good.
I've had a lot of hiccups and changes to what I thought was going to be my plan. And right now, man, I'm in the DC area. And what I really enjoy doing is talking, with you, with all the other people that I've had the opportunity to connect with, to meet some of those other J6ers, and say, what are the issues that are facing our community? And by our community, I mean the January 6th community, and what can we do with this platform that we've been given to not just fix those issues, but to help affect some change on a larger scale. And I was never somebody that was like interested in prison. Like nobody in my family had been to prison. Like I never thought that I would be like a prison reform advocate, and I don't know that that's really what I am. I mean, right now, like I'm a J6. I'm a J6er, man, and I'm talking about J6 issues. But the larger thing is, I've seen when you put guys, um, when you put people who had no real business being in prison behind those walls, and you give them a chance to see things that under no other circumstances would they have seen, you
Mhm.
can't forget that. And so my goal right now is to work for some reform and some changes in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And if that echoes down to the state level, great. One of the specific things is the need for civilian oversight of the Bureau of Prisons. People
Mhm.
need to know what's going on. They hear all these excuses, like you just assume that like a guy in prison, like he deserves to be there, and like whatever happens, happens. Well, the reality is nobody deserves to be locked in their cell for days at a time, or go 13 days without a shower, or weeks without laundry. And there's just a lot of little things that we can do. And the biggest thing that I'm focused on right now is advocating for specifically the 14 commutations, the 14 individuals in our community who have not yet received a pardon. That needs to happen. I think we really need to look critically at the January Sixers who are still behind bars. Not all of them are there specifically for what happened to them or what they chose to do on January 6th, but in some cases, it is directly related to that. And the bigger thing is, man, is ultimately just, I want to use this platform that I've been given to really follow whatever God's plan is, man. I never thought I would be back in the DC area, and people are like, "Do you have Stockholm syndrome? Do you just like love that place that you hate?" And it's like, man, it's it's kind of fun. Like if you've got thick skin, and you can handle like the crazy gender fluid like LGBTQI aliens like yelling at you, like there's a lot of opportunity to do fun stuff. Like and so that's cool, man. Like that's what I want to do. It's I don't have a real job right now. Like it's like
Yeah.
I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And I would love to, settle down at some point and find that MAGA woman and have some MAGA babies and raise the next generation of radical extremists. I'm just kidding. But it's
Amen.
yeah, it's I'm just trying to, man, I'm just trying to live, man. I'm trying to tell my story, to tell the story of those people who don't have the platforms that we do. And like I
Right.
said earlier, man, I'm still in touch with people, as I'm sure you are as well, who are suffering as a result of either overcharging, ridiculous sentences, or just horrific conditions that we know all too well.
Well, I think to a few things like what you said. I appreciate you being vulnerable and transparent and sharing your
Sure.
struggle. But like I think what I've always said is the deepest, darkest secret that you have down in there, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're most ashamed of, you don't want to tell people about. I feel like if you can manage the courage to pull that thing out of there, and like I imagine it's like a crystal, you hold it up to the light, and I think the light is God, right? And he shines through that dark secret, whatever it is, and that light splits and it's like sprays out all over the place, and it touches people. And I believe that when other people see that and they say, "Man, I didn't realize," I see Dominic Box on the TV all the time, or on TikTok, whatever, all the
Yeah.
time. And it sounds like he's got it all together, but I didn't know he was dealing with that. And so now they've got the courage to say, "Hey, man, you know what? I was dealing with that same thing too."
Yeah.
Um, so
Y-
another
I
thing I wanted to
appreciate
say,
that, man. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Another thing I wanted to say was like we have been afforded an opportunity to like we say there's a complacency in America, and
Yeah.
people want to just like let the next generation worry about it, or we'll get them next election or this, that, or the other. And it's like we have been given an opportunity, and if you don't like, we need you to get out and vote. We need you to pay attention to your local elections because that's where it all starts. We need to get involved in some type of, whether it's a Republican club or precinct committee men or what, a city council, school board, whatever it is. But also, like, I think it's important that if you're not willing to engage in this fight that we're engaged in, like, then lend material support, treasure, time, share the stuff on social media, pray for us, like, or
Yeah.
just whatever, comment, like, share, but also help if, like, I'm sure you have a Give Send Go, but like we need, we're trying to assemble our lives, and a lot of people think, well, those guys got pardoned and they were at the White House today. They got to be, have it all together. And no, we
Yeah.
don't. We're like, we've been freed, but we haven't
Yeah.
received any type of compensation. Oh, he's got the Give Send Go up now for you. So yeah, if you guys
Awesome, man.
can help Dominic Box, support him. He's a good man, and he's trying to get his life back on track. So if y'all will donate to that, I don't know what the link is, but
It's
I'm sure he'll.
givesendgo.com/domboxj6. And I want to say, people look at like us, moving around and going to the White House. That's all been by, the kindness and generosity of others. Like,
Yeah.
I don't,
Shout out to
it's
our
not,
friend. We're not going to say her name, but shout out to her. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And to everybody, the people that put money on our books, that sent us books, that sent us prayers, like all of that stuff. Like I always said this, Shane, like we were the ones that were in jail, but like we're all in this fight together. And not everybody's
Mhm.
an infantry soldier, not everybody's an
Right.
artilleryman. Some people are, they're the store guy, they're the, I don't
Right.
know the term that
Support. Yeah.
whatever,
Whatever it is. Yeah.
support supply guy. And
Yeah.
but there's so many different ways that you can support. Like, and if you see somebody like Shane doing these podcasts, bringing you stories that you're not going to get anywhere else. Like, subscribe, donate, support, because if you can't just like, unless you have your own business, which a lot of people, if they did have them, they lost them. Like, you even still with the pardon, with the dismissal, like those news stories don't go away. People's natural like reaction to like a January 6er is still like, oh my God, like you stormed the White
Yeah.
House, dude. I hear that all the time. They're like, did you like storm the White House? And it's like, well, it was the US Capitol, but like I've just stopped correcting people. And just the reality is, man, it's that I hate it, dude. Like I heard that so many times in prison, and I just like stopped correcting them. I was like, yeah, yeah. I ran into the White House and I slept in Trump's bed. It was great. Um, but
Shout out to Lao Beijing out there. Chinese MAGA was a huge support, and
yeah,
Lily and Dwight Yin. Those are some awesome. There's a lot of. I've met so many wonderful, different sects of people, and from all over the nation. Like I have this big MAGA J6 family now, and it's like I'm thinking about I need to go on the road and just take a road trip and see everybody. Which some people like. You see, like Pete Schwartz is on his like sabbatical, and it's
dude.
been beautiful to see some of these experiences. He was on the show last week, and got to stay a few days at my house, and we got to have some fun. So it was good to see old Pete. So
And that's
how?
yeah, you brought up a massive point that I want to say though. Like under no other circumstances would I have been exposed and like become friends or like shared meals with such a wide range of people. And it's like I don't know that there's a state in the union right now that I couldn't call somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm in, Bristol, Connecticut or, Oahu. Like I need a place to stay." Like, that connection is there and connection is protection, man. Like this family is massive and whether you were in jail or not, like it's just a beautiful thing. And so I thank you to everybody for real.
Yeah. And where you're simply, I'm just a regular dude, like a concerned citizen who really takes things very, very literally. I feel like if it says this government's being tyrannical and it's our duty to throw off such government, I take that literally. I also I have a criminal record from the past, and I really have a problem when somebody's taking something from me. I'm just supposed to sit back and accept that. And whenever I feel like they're stealing the 2020 election, and I watched the fraud go on, and I just feel like I'm just supposed to accept that, and we're just supposed to get them next time. Absolutely not. I don't know what that looks like, and there's no really clean way to oppose what your government is doing, how they're installing their next ruler. But it's frustrating. So were you? Did you see? It seemed like the Palestinian, the Mujahideen, free Palestine group. It looked like it was a bunch of the old hippie leftovers from whatever the last movement that they were there for. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they're. We went over there today, and like I talked to him because I saw like the keffiyehs and the silly scarves, and I pray for peace. I want everybody to be able to live and live and enjoy their lives however they see fit. But like we were told there's going to be this massive terrorist pro Hamas protest, and there was like maybe 5 or 6 people, and it was like they had their gay lives matter, don't touch our trans kids, like free Palestine. And it's like, are you just like shotgun blasting like leftoid like cultural issues? And it's like maybe something will
Yes.
stick. And it's just like, it's funny, dude. Like I don't even like have to be, you don't even have to be like super educated or like informed on everything to know that like at least I'm like passionate and know what I'm supporting. And if that's just as simple as like I like Donald Trump and his jokes, like you're far ahead of like most of these people. Because I'll tell you this, Shane. I was at this they're having the leftists are having these 50-51 protests all over the country. I think it's like every month. And I actually infiltrated one in Richmond, Virginia a couple weeks ago just to see like, how they do it. And I was like, okay, it's on May Day. They're supposed to be like pro worker. And it was like, we hate Trump. Elon's a Nazi, like genital mutilation for kids, like dogs are people. And I was just like, what is going on here? And there was no cohesive meshes. There was no unity. But the biggest thing, Shane, was there was no passion. Like it was like,
Yeah.
well, I saw it on TikTok. I'm supposed to be here. And like, what time does this thing end? And they dispersed, like they shattered like cockroaches. And the cool thing was like, nobody knew that I was a Trump supporter. And so I was just able to like talk to these people. And it's like, you talk to the bearded lady or like the sweaty Antifa kid. And it's like, so what are you really here for? He's like, man, just like, it's like Trump, like, he sucks. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
He pardoned me. I love the guy, but
Yeah, it's sad. They were told that these people are bad. And what's funny is like, oh, now you're a liberal and you hate electric cars, like you hate Teslas, like
that's the biggest thing, dude. Like everybody it was like all my like I don't have a lot of them, but like all my like Democrat lefty friends were like, we love Elon, like he might be the Antichrist, but we love him. And like now it's just like like the cars are sweet. All right. I never wanted to own an electric car, but like
right.
you go get in one of those Teslas or bro, if we get some Trump bucks, I'm buying 3 Cybertrucks just to own the lids.
Speaking of, we're going to play some footage real quick that kind of shares some of our experience.
Cool.
And in some of that is the red Tesla that Elon gave to Donald Trump that's parked outside the West Wing, which was that was like a treat for me. I was like, that's awesome. And it's a good looking car too. So we're going to go ahead and roll that if we can.
Cool.
one, so you guys got to see how awesome our time here was, and some of the highlights of what we got to do. We got to see the room where Cash Patel was sworn in. We got to be in the press briefing room. We did see the red Tesla that I mentioned previously. But man, what a surreal thing! Like you told me, 120 days ago, I would be in the West Wing in the briefing room behind the podium or whatever. I would be like, "You're crazy! Like,
Man,
there's no way."
and what was so cool, man, like aside from just the history and like the aura, I think the kids are saying now was like Secret Service knew who we were and they were
Mm,
cool. Like they weren't looking at us like we were suspicious. They were telling us stories about what, President Trump was like, what seeing all the different people were
yeah,
like. And, it was so again, thank you to our friend who shall go unnamed for giving us
yeah,
that opportunity. And if you're interested in doing a tour like we did today, reach out to me or Shane, and we'll get you connected with
yeah,
the right people to do that. I've done a lot of
absolutely.
cool things that I know you have, but there was
Yeah.
nothing like walking into that cabinet room in the West Wing today. That was so cool.
Well, seeing like this, so this is where he like President Trump works like for like they're like, yeah, he's here like 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Got to see like the outside of the Situation Room, like that, some cool stuff, like the Roosevelt Room. Like there's
Yeah.
just so much history there, and I think like, oh, the Rose Garden. We got to see the Rose Garden where they do different
Yes.
press briefings and stuff like that. And it's just something that like, man, you see this on TV all the time. Very limited, restricted access to these things, and here it
What
is.
what
And I'm like, what's that?
I was gonna say what was super cool is you can tell Trump was in the White House because there was so much gold. Like there was
Yeah.
just gold everywhere. And I mean, everything was trimmed, and it wasn't like gaudy or like gross. It was just like,
Yeah.
that's my man Trump. That's the Trump
Yeah.
touch. It was very cool.
Well, there was what we really saw too, like the VP area was some beautiful pictures of JD Vance and his family on the trip to India with Modi and the Taj Mahal, and just some awesome photography, some pictures. I definitely was blessed, beyond imagine today. Um, so what can if you had to tell the American people, what just I'm opening up the floor. You just talk about. Well, I want you to just give them run them down your monologue. If there's something that they need to know about Dominic Box, or if there's like something you feel like they need to be doing, like I want to give you just the opportunity to. If there's something that you haven't been able to talk about on some of these podcasts, because I know you've been on a few of them, but man, the floor is yours, dude. Just open it up.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I would say is, you know, I am somebody who loves my country. I love my fellow man, whether we were friends during our period of incarceration or not. You are my brothers and sisters, and I want us all to win. One of the biggest things that I hate, man, is looking at some of the infighting and the name calling and the mudslinging. And I get it, man. Like when you are incarcerated with somebody for years at a time, it's hard and difficult to love every aspect of that individual. But if you
Mhm.
can, look at our shared purpose, or what in my mind should be our shared purpose, which is telling the truth about what really happened on January 6th, and working together to affect that change and bring about some further transparency, because I know there's pictures out there. If you like, my case was not that interesting, and I've got hundreds of pages of documents and videos and pictures and stuff from the FBI of like just the malfeasance that they engaged in. Don't just like sit on that stuff. Don't just, and I get like, I talk to some people, I'm not going to name them, and they're like, man, I just want to put January 6th behind me. Well, let me
Mhm.
help you. Let me work through you. Get in touch with guys like Shane and some of those other people that you see active in social media, and let us do some of that heavy lifting for you, because if we just take, and I genuinely believe that we are going to be made whole in some way, whether that's in the form of a medal or an apology from the government, or some money to help offset some of the losses that we undoubtedly endured. The biggest thing that I want is an acknowledgement that we were right. We were there for a moral and justifiable purpose, and that some wrongs were done to American citizens in a way that can never happen again. Because yes, it was Trump supporters today. It can be anybody tomorrow, and I don't want that to happen to anybody. And the way that we make sure that that happens is that we continue to talk about what we saw, because whether you are a public speaker or you are, just a plumber from Indiana or whatever, you have a story. Whether you had misdemeanors, felonies, seditious conspiracy, or parading and picketing, like, you saw something that day. You were a part of something so much bigger than yourself, and it's easy.
Mhm.
It's easy to ignore it and want to just get back to doing your own thing. But I'm somebody that has a serious love and passion for storytelling. Get me your videos, get me your pictures. I'll always give you credit for it, but I'll help you tell your story. Whatever I can do to help our community. Yeah, I came into things at the end, but I love you guys, and I want to, and I won't be quiet. I never, even in the immediate aftermath before I was arrested, I have always told the truth about that day, and the truth is, the election in 2020 was stolen, and everybody who showed up that day was there for a purpose, and that was to show the federal government that we know what you've done, what you're doing is wrong, and we the people just won't take it anymore. So, um, my email address, it's domboxj6@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Dominic Xavier Box. I'm trying to get more active on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's Dom Free Press, and I would definitely appreciate some follows on that. But if you've got, I've got the ability, I've got some AI software or access to AI software. We can go through your court documents together. I can help get you plugged in and connected with people like Shane, and some of the other podcasters that are out there. And seriously, guys, you don't have to be a public speaker or know what you're going to talk about, because we all went through the same thing, and we can help each other. But we're not going to get that response that we deserve if, the same couple people keep sucking up the oxygen and talking about the same things. Because, I was in one area, Shane was in a totally different area, and, we all saw different things, but it was a part of the same incredible chapter of American history, and it's up to all of us to help tell that story as a whole.
No, absolutely. And it's still frustrating because we haven't told that story enough, because you still have people like Tom Tillis going out here and sabotaging the MAGA agenda and President Trump, and getting in the way of Ed Martin getting confirmed. And then come to find out, Judge Janine has much of the same views that Ed Martin has about January 6th. So you denied him, but you support her. And I'm just like, so we need to get to change the narrative. Mike Pence is
Yeah.
still talking about, this was police week here in DC, and I'm pretty sure you back the blue. I support the police. I support proper policing. I don't
Yeah.
support abusive, tyrannical, not protecting and serving, but attacking and assaulting and killing and murdering. I don't support that type of police activity, but I do support good law enforcement, because we need to have safe communities and cities to live in, and to protect our children and our families. But man, what an honor and a treat it has been to spend
Yeah,
time
man.
with you in the swamp, and honor to have you on here. If you have stuff that's going on with you and you ever want to come back on, man, I would love to have you back on, man.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody that's
Well, thank
tuning in, please, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say a special thank you to you, personally, Shane, for the work you did with Stand in the Gap and some of the other incredible stuff you've been involved in. You guys were instrumental in bringing my family out to see me while I was incarcerated, and so I just wanted to give you a personal thanks for that. That was incredible. It was an experience unlike any other, that was only made possible because of the work that you and so many others did. So thank you to that. And I did want to say to anybody out there, June 14th, if you're not aware, is not only President Trump's birthday, not only Flag Day, but it's also the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States Army. And there's going to be an incredible military parade, Trumpapalooza, right here in the swamp. And what better way? Not everybody can make it to CPAC, but I think it would be an incredible opportunity for us as January 6ers to to get back together. We can talk through, telegrams or carrier pigeons or whatever, but our connection is our protection. So we've got to come together. And at some point, we're going to be at Mar-a-Lago or the White House or whatever. But even if it's just for a quick picture, a catch up, come see your brothers and sisters. Let them know how you're doing. Let them know how we can help. And if nothing else, let's get some cool selfies.
Yeah, that's right. I see you on the camera all the time. It's like nonstop. Go, go, go. Well,
Yeah.
again, everybody, thank you. Please follow, subscribe, like, share out the content. Don't forget, check out Dom's Give Send Go. If you can help him out, send him a few bucks so he can buy some of those free world ramen noodles instead of just the the regular beef or Texas beef. He can get some of the maybe the chili bowls or whatever it is. So again, everybody, just don't forget we're playing chess, not checkers. So don't tip your hand. Let's play smart. God bless y'all. Thank you for tuning in.
God bless you.